Knowing when and when not to join fights is one of the hardest things to always make correct judgment calls about in Dota. Even top tier pros mess it up all the time, but I think there are some general principles that make it easier to give you somewhat of a flow chart on how to make better decisions and learn when and when not to fights. So let's get started. Wahoo! So I've talked about this in other videos, and I'll probably continue to reiterate it in future ones as well, and that is that the basis for any decision you make in Dota is how does my hero actually work, what does it want, and how does it interact with the enemy heroes. Your hero and the other heroes at a base level are the core of everything. Let's use this game as one of the most clear examples you ever get of heroes that should pretty much never TP somewhere or run to a random fight, and that's Centaur. All of his spells are point blank, so if he runs to some place, the enemy can simply walk away, and that's the end of the fight, and he wastes all his time he could have been farming. So is a hero like that just useless for the map? No, he's what I'll call a placeholder or an anchor. His team is making moves mid and top, putting pressure, and he's farming this whole bottom area in the meantime. Now what does that actually do for the map is if he wasn't here, Abbott would push it bot all the way in, he would farm the camps and the waves, and he'd farm way faster. And eventually someone would have to TP back bottom and take the waves coming in because it's too much lost gold, so he'd just end up back in the same position anyway. Certain heroes like Centaur are also able to apply a massive amount of pressure and vision just by existing in a certain space. Being unkillable is one of the most broken things in all of Dota and should be massively abused to take area and a farm advantage. Putting yourself in places the enemy wants to be, farming a whole lot, and being this blob that you sort of bait them to come to you and waste time. I think there's a common misconception that if you're not joining fights, it means you're being useless and not really contributing, basically AFKing. But that's not true at all. It's important to remember that the way games are won is almost always by gold lead. You don't win by killing them 100 times. You win by being so much stronger than them that no matter how hard they outplay you, it doesn't matter because you just throw gold at them. Gold simplifies the game, makes it easy for you to do whatever you want, and that ties into everything in Dota, but especially when and how you join fights. Some heroes have to be farming and others fighting. If everyone is doing one or the other, the balance is all wrong, and you either don't build any gold lead because nobody's farming, or everyone's farming and you're sitting ducks for ganks and pressure, not to mention you're probably wasting strong timings too. You want a healthy balance of mixing heroes into plays and incorporating everyone into the game. Look at this situation. There's a massive dive mid and a ton of tower pressure, but nobody TPs, nobody overreacts, and tries to fight it because they know they can't. If Centaur TPs, Radiant can either just walk away or maybe even kill him because he's not ready to interact with the game like that yet. Understanding these things and not trying to fight when you can't is absolutely massive for your efficiency and good time use. Compare that situation to this one. Doom as a hero is super down to join fights as he doesn't farm near as fast as Centaur does and has strong fighting spells. But he does still have the same issue as he's no reach or catch. He needs to run you down if you've overextended. So that's the type of situations he'll be looking for, and it shows up top. Look at his perspective. He's thinking about, should I TP here? Has Radiant overextended enough that it makes sense to join this? And eventually he decides, yes, they're far enough in that I can TP. This restraint and looking, biding your time, and not rushing things is a very important skill. Sometimes the deciding factor is not should I TP to this fight, it's when should I TP to the fight. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow, but as you get better and better, baiting TPs and kiting them becomes a huge part of Dota. And as the defender, knowing your hero's limits and can they reset if they see my TP and waste my time is super massive. Especially if you're already applying pressure in a certain place, TPing out is going to alleviate all of that. So balancing the two is something you'll learn over time. Slowly building a feel for it and doing things that make sense, not based on peer pressure or the expectations of I'm supposed to TP here, is huge. You can see Mallory doesn't TP because there's too many people there. His TP will be too long. It's the 5-second one. Not to mention the fight's kind of already over and he's not really needed, which lets him stay bot, keep farming, and give them an anchor to smoke to if they see an opportunity later. This situation is one I disagree with quite a bit with what Nigma do. If you look at the map, XG is super suffocated. They're mega stuck in their base. Nigma can farm everywhere and pick them off if they overextend. But instead they decide to make a very long 5-man move to Deuce top. And even though they do end up killing her, look what happens to the map in the meantime. Because they do it with 5 instead of 3 or 4. Bot immediately starts pushing and the gank becomes very obvious. Pango starts farming a bunch and getting fat, and actually also gets access to the gate, which allows them to sneak through and farm the enemy side of the map or cut waves, which would waste even more of Nigma's time while they're strong. Instead of this, DK could farm Ancients and Small Camp twice, the incoming wave and many more camps, and just control the general area. And in addition to all the gold he's going to get, it also makes the smoke way less obvious. An even better role, in my opinion, is one where Hoodwink stays with the DK and insta-kills his ST when he walks down bot, and Mars Pugna can make a move somewhere else. This is the type of thinking that goes into should I fight or should I farm. Balancing area control and farm with pressure. Understanding that the two have to coexist and building a feel for what that looks like in different situations with different heroes. That's the kind of stuff that starts making you really, really good at Dota. Something else that's changed over time is the map, obviously. It's considerably bigger than it used to be, but the shape is also different. With the addition of the gates, it's not actually a square anymore. It's like you lifted a piece of paper with two of the corners touching, leaving a droopy bit down below. That's mid. On the old map, mid used to be the focal point of Dota because it was the closest point to everything. Now it's the furthest, since the gates make one side lane very close to another. Now, that doesn't mean ganking mid or joining fights around mid is bad. It can be very good sometimes, but what it does mean is that it's more committal and more of a time sink, especially in mid-game. Everything gets sped up, people farm faster, push waves faster, and can abuse you wasting time much harder than early on. So this means that controlling areas and looking at how the map is progressing, where they can and can't be, and slowly squeezing them in is much better than obsessing over individual kills. Remember, winning Dota is about gold lead. In the early game, TPing places in response to fight, assuming your resource and other things make sense, is much less punishing because tier 1s are up and you can walk back through the gate or walk back to mid much more quickly. Once tier 1s are dead though, you can end up running a really long time. So as a couple pieces of advice, I'd just say that think a little bit before you go on some great Tolkien-esque journey across the map. Incorporate good thoughts like, can I kill this guy? Understand what will happen to the map in the meantime, considering the important variables with these things. Over time, your muscle memory for these things will build and your base understanding, which will free up your head to think about the small things instead of the big ones. And another huge one is once you're in the post 6-minute phase of the game, as a core, pushing the wave in not a super obvious goober way, like wasting all your mana nuking it in a silly way, I suppose, but casually shoving it has a lot of value because it gives you some free time to make a move or TP somewhere else and still connect back to your lane as it pushes into you. Compared to if you kill it slowly, the waves keep meeting too consistently and you lose way more resources in the downtime. Look at this moment that illustrates it really well. Collapse is having a really bad game, so he cuts the wave because the laning versus DK is super hard, and this gives him a huge amount of downtime to do whatever he wants, and he looks mid and gets a key turnaround kill and still makes it back bottom in time to keep farming. And one more for good measure, the wave dies and he makes a super quick TP mid to get this Bane kill and help the rune fight. Now, these are very specific high skill moments, but I just use these as an example, not only of the possibilities there are, but also just to quickly mention that little kills like this are huge when you're behind, and especially when you have a bad lane matchup where you aren't farming well. Mixing up the hero composition on the map can free you up a lot and spread the XP among your heroes much more, giving you chances to make more and more moves. To send us off, I'll show you some clips from a game of Liquid vs Tundra where Mickey plays insanely well to illustrate some of these things. Here he just picks up his Fusel, and he definitely wants to fight. Hitting the tower or farming neutrals are pretty inefficient for his hero right now, so he's pushing the wave and casually looking mid. He doesn't overplay his hand, he just beats the crap out of this Timbersaw and then goes back to top. Since it's a queen mid, and it's not super easy to force it, but with something like a Shadow Fiend, maybe he would wrap behind mid and commit ulti and stun, and they could take this tower, but it's a queen, so he's not going to overdo it. Now he's looking at bot at this fight, but he's not instantly TPing, he's feeling it out, waiting for more spells to be used. He has a lot of pressure on Timbersaw and control of this area, so giving it up for free is not good, but for a good reason, it's very strong because he wants to be a part of the game. The TP's at just the right moment. They get 2 kills and they get the whole area, and then immediately afterward, they smoke, but it's just as 2, not wasting heroes and keeping pressure on this bottom area. All the snowballs into them diving Void Spirit and killing him again because they understand how weak the enemy is. Timber's AFK farming and clock is super low level and useless, abusing his hero's strengths, but not overdoing it when it's bad. Oftentimes, the enemy's weakness is more important even than your strength. Now I'm going to compare that to this period after where he's not forcing anything. He's just controlling an area and farming and killing people if they come into his area. There's a very important idea in Dota of even if you're strong, the way and where you fight matters a lot. And if you fight in a way that your hero doesn't want to, even if you're way up on net worth, can make you really, really weak. In many aspects of Dota, there's a natural ebb and flow. It's rarely all go or all farm for any hero. Some sweet spot in between will almost always feel best. If MK tries to just run at the enemy too deep, he'll get pushed back, people will TP, and he'll just die. He's not invincible, he's just very strong. And the difference between those two means he's going to toe the line. Keep farming, getting strong, and join fights and kills when he's able to wait out certain spells being cast or have someone else start the fight for him, or find an isolated hero and see a good opportunity. In all these things, the most important factor is actually thinking about your hero. What it wants, how it functions. Can you jump in the middle of them? Do you need a certain item? Do you need to kill a certain hero? If MK was playing against Phoenix, he's going to farm and move in a way that he only fights if Phoenix is dead, has used his spells, or there's some other answer like a pipe that allows it to be okay. The more you understand these things, the more natural it will feel. Liquid correctly decides that forcing a bot dive that's late in the game is just not a risk worth taking. Moving them around, pressuring different points, and continuing to pick people off naturally just makes more sense until they hit a clear timing like BKBs or invincibility. Very often being unkillable is the factor that tells you, okay, we're going to go crazy mode. And if you die quite easily, there has to be a little more elegance and context. A lot of this ties into map movement, which I'll cover in more detail in a future video, but for now, think about your hero. What's it want? How does it fight? Look at the map. What parts of it am I holding? Am I needed here, or is it okay to move around? And think before you TP or run headlong into places. Make thoughtful decisions and learn. Don't just do. Hope you enjoyed, guys, and thanks for watching.